Honorable Mr. Justice A.J. Masse and all other participants in this particular workshop on Juvenile Justice Act. Today is the second day of this workshop. We had a very meaningful day yesterday, and we look forward to another meaningful day in this particular program. The first session is being devoted to the role of the police under the Juvenile Justice Act. When we talk about the role of the police, it's not merely the enumeration of the different provisions which require the police to play its role in a particular manner. What actually is being done and what actually needs to be done, different aspects need to be addressed, focused, and solutions to be found out in that particular context. And for this particular field, no one else than Dr. K.P. Singh. Dr. K.P. Singh, the former DGP, who else can be a better resource, human resource, for this particular kind of a session? And therefore, we have with us this morning who would dissect the different provisions and deal with as to how we have to go about and give us the roadmap regarding particularly the role which the police is required to play. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
Look forward.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words for me. I welcome Honorable Mr. Justice A.J. Masse and the other participant in the session. I will discuss the role of police in implementation of the Juvenile Justice Act, which include registration of inquiry, investigation or inquiry, then different role which the police has to play. I will discuss all those matters, and in the end, I will take questions and will try to answer those queries, if any. We all have known the story of Lord Rama in Ramayana. When Love and Kush detained the horse of Lord Rama, the army of Lord Rama came to fight for the horse in order to get the animal released. But Love and Kush defeated the army of Lord Rama, and ultimately Lord Rama has to come to the battlefield. And in the battlefield, first Lord Rama tried to persuade Love and Kush, but when they did not agree, Lord Rama lifted his bow to aim at both of them. It is here Maharishi Valmiki appears on the scene and questioned Lord Rama, what was he doing? Lord Rama said, Maharishi, ye balak bahut hati hai. Maharishi Valmiki replied to Lord Rama, Rajhat to sab jante hain Maharaj, lekin Rajhat ka uttar, sorry, Balhat to sab jante hain Maharaj, lekin Balhat ka uttar Rajhat nahi ho sakta. And this is the gist of Juvenile Justice Act. That any act of crime or any offense committed by a child is Balhat. It is misconduct. It is not crime per se. And the answer to that crime or Balhat is not Rajhat. Rajhat means law, criminal procedures, but rehabilitation. And it is in this background I will develop my lecture. Sometimes the police officers and police investigating officers, they argue why not CRPC and why this separate procedure? And the answer is given in CRPC itself, section 4 and section 5, which provides that for special laws, there can be separate procedure of inquiry, investigation, trial, and punishment. CRPC is the code mainly to discuss or decide cases under IPC. Under local and special law, there can be a separate procedure. And section 5, where a separate procedure has been prescribed under any special law, then that law shall prevail over the provisions of CRPC. And in order to clear any doubt in the minds, section 1, subsection 4 of the JJ Act again emphasized and give overriding effect to the provisions of JJ Act. So this is the answer to police officers and police investigating officers who generally argue that why not the CRPC provision and why this is special provision. I have been asked to develop my lecture on certain issues, and the first issue in that process is Special Juvenile Police Unit, SJPU. What is it? What is the constitution and how it has to function? And there is a difference between the old act and the new act. We police officers are still continuing SJPU as per the provisions of the 2000 Act. We have not modified our proceedings or procedures as per the new act. Section 2, subsection 55 of the JJ Act reads that SJPU is a police unit for a district or city or any other police unit like GRP dealing with children and designated as section 107 of the JJ Act. Earlier, this SJPU in the old act used to be at every police station level. In the new act, this unit has to be at the district level. And at the police station level, another officer, that is child welfare police officer, is to be appointed. But we are still continuing with the old concept, and we have not modified our procedures as per the new act. Section 107 of the JJ Act, new JJ Act reads, the function of SJPU will be to coordinate all functions of police. It means it will be a coordination agency above all the child welfare police officer posted in the district. And the role of this unit is basically to coordinate. Whereas in the old act, the function was to investigate, to function as a juvenile police investigating officer. And section 107 reads that state government shall constitute this unit, meaning thereby the orders are to be issued by the state government. Whereas it is not happening. All the SJPUs are still continuing under the order of the district superintendent of police, which is not correct, which is wrong. The order have to come from the state government. Like the orders of the superintendent of police and the posting of DYSPs, etc. are coming from the state government. Similarly, the order of the constitution of SJPU should come from the state government and not from any other authority. And it is the duty of the concerned department to provide training, special training to the members of the SJPU, including the officers from the railway police if the SJPU is there. And in that SJPU, one DSP level officer and 2 social workers are to be associated. So this is about SJPU, and my question here for the police officers who are attending this session is, are the SJPUs constituted as per the JJ Act 2015? And the answer is no. Who is issuing orders to constitute SJPU? The police officer must inquire. Is there any rule prescribed in this regard? Is there separate SJPU constituted for SJ or for GRP? Are the training schedule prescribed for the training of these SJPU members? These are some of the issues which the police officers have to ponder upon and have to decide. The second topic or the second issue which I was supposed to deal with was the child welfare police officer. The child welfare police officer has to be appointed as per section 107 subsection 1 of the JJ Act. And section 107 reads, in every police station, at least one officer, there can be more, not below the rank of assistant sub-inspector with aptitude, appropriate training and orientation may be designated as the child welfare police officer, CWPO. And the function of this child welfare police officer is to exclusively deal with children, either victims or perpetrators. The role of this officer is to exclusively deal. What does it mean? It means no other police officer, be the SHO or anybody else, will deal under this act with the children in conflict with law or the children in need of care and protection. This is the role of the child welfare police officer. And there have been various questions regarding the role of child welfare police officer. Number one, these child welfare police officers are not given exclusive duty to deal with these children. They are given other duties also. They are transferred frequently. They are not given stability of tenure. They are not given proper training. These are some of the issues which have been mentioned by the participant, the queries which I have received. So this is what the officers of the police department has to take note of and take remedial measures. The question again which I posed before the police authorities are we designated CWPOs in every police station? Are specific orders issued designating CWPOs? Are CWPOs trained before and after designation as such? Are CWPOs given any other police duties or they are exclusively working as CDPOs only? These are some of the questions to ponder by the police authorities. The third issue which I was supposed to deal with was pre-production actions of police, precautions to be taken. And this is how the role of police comes under the JJ Act. It means registration of inquiries or case. It means arrest procedures. It means investigation proceedings. And it means any other proceedings which the police have to undertake. Now I will discuss them one by one. Registration of inquiry. It is not registration of case because use of the terminology case is barred. It is an adversarial semantics. That is why it is said registration of case, inquiry and not case. Central Rule 8 sub-rule 1 says, in dealing with cases committed by juvenile, police shall not require to register an FIR or file a charge sheet, except where the offence have been committed by the juvenile is heinous, or when such offence alleged to have been committed is jointly with the adult. Meaning thereby, in heinous offences only, police is authorized to register FIR and not in petty and serious offences. Police is authorized to register FIR only in cases when an adult is also involved in commission of crime with the juvenile. So these are the two situations when police can register FIR. And the definition of heinous crime, petty crime and serious crime has been given in section 2. Except those crimes where minimum punishment of 7 years and more has been prescribed, all other offences are petty and serious offences. Police is not supposed to register FIR in petty and serious offences, as I have already told. So police can register FIR only in those cases where the offence is punishable with minimum sentence of 7 years. And the JJ Act has been amended on 7th of August 2021 to redefine serious offences and consequently the heinous offences. Here I have the statistics from Crime in India 2020. In the year 2020, almost 30,000 cases were registered throughout the country against juvenile. Except those offences which I have mentioned in red color, murder, rape and dacoity. FIR should not have been registered under all those offenses which have been listed here. I give the benefit of doubt to the police officer to the tune of 50% that the police was not knowing whether the perpetrator was a juvenile or not. That is why the FIR has been registered. I give the benefit of doubt another 25% to police officer that the juvenile must be involved in the crime with adult. Still, this number is too high. If I calculate, I'll find that only 10% of the cases are of heinous offenses. 90% of the cases are of other offenses. So here is a need. We should scrutinize whether we are registering cases against juvenile in genuine cases or we are unnecessarily booking children in FIRs. We have to ponder upon it. Another issue which is the remnant of my yesterday's lecture, and this is for the presiding officers of Children Court to ponder. After the amendment in the definition of serious offences on 7th of August 2021, my two questions are there for the presiding officers to ponder upon. Should the Children Court continue trial of those erstwhile heinous offences as court of sessions, which are no more heinous offences now after the amendment? Second, should the Children Court not adopt the role of such JJBs in trial of such offences and decide the cases at JJB? Yesterday, I in detail gave the procedure that the Children Court are free to adopt the role of JJB and decide the cases. In my opinion, here is a case wherein all those cases which are no more heinous crime now as per the amendment, ideally the Children Court may adopt the role of the JJ board and decide those cases as JJ board. It is a question to be pondered by the presiding officers of those cases, those pending cases which are to be tried by the Children Court. I leave it to the discretion of the judicial court, to the presiding officers of the Children Court. But in my opinion, these are the fit cases where the Children Court may adopt the role of JJB and decide them as JJ board. Because in Dharamveer versus State of NCT of Delhi, the Honorable Supreme Court has said that this law is retrospective in nature, in application. This is beneficial legislation, and beneficial legislation can be given retrospective application. So the children who are being tried by the session court, by the Children Court as adult now, and now they fall in the category of heinous offenders, serious offenders and not heinous offenders, they deserve the benefit of the ruling of the Honorable Supreme Court in Dharamveer versus NCT of Delhi. Now, the third issue which I was supposed to answer was about the arrest or apprehension of juvenile. And Rule 8.1 again decides this issue. It says that apprehension only in heinous offences is allowed, meaning thereby in petty and serious offences, which constitute 90% of the offences which are being registered against juvenile, apprehension of the juvenile or arrest of the juvenile is not warranted. In fact, it is illegal. There is only one exception: when arrest in petty and serious offense is in the interest of the child. For example, a child is being beaten and you have to protect him. So you may apprehend him, but that apprehension will not be treated at par with apprehension in that criminal case. It will be for the protection of the child, and such a child shall be produced not before the JJ board, but before the Child Welfare Committee for further order. So this is about arrest and apprehension. And here I have the figures from the Crime in India 2020, whereby 35,000 children were arrested by police in all the cases registered against them. And 76% of them were in the age group of 16 to 18 years. These children are from very poor background. They do not know about their law. There is hardly anybody to protect their interest. That is why they are not going before the law court for those illegal detentions or arrest. And the police is getting scot-free without any action against the police officer for these wrong arrests. And it is continuing. Time has come when police should mend their ways and arrest juvenile only in heinous offences, which is lawful. These unlawful detention and arrest should be curtailed, should be not used anymore. Now, procedure in relation to the investigation, or when a child has been apprehended, what procedure the police have to adopt. And Rule 8.3 gives the detail. It says, after apprehension, every child in conflict with law shall be placed under the charge of the child welfare police officer in the nearest police station. And that CWPO shall produce that child before the JJ board without any loss of time. Please read the words without any loss of time. And latest within 24 hours, excluding journey. What does it mean? It means that you should not wait for the child to be produced before the JJ board next day. Immediately, the time you have apprehended him, immediately after doing the basic formalities, you should produce him before the JJ board and take the orders of the JJ board. And secondly, it is prohibited that the child should be put up in police lockup or jail. It is specifically prohibited that a child shall not be placed in police lockup or jail. And Section 11 of the JJ Act prescribes the responsibility of the investigating officer, and it says that the investigating officer, as well as any other person who have the custody of a child, shall behave as if said person is the parents of the child. This is the level of protection and care which the investigating officer has to give to that child which has been apprehended by them. What should be done by the CWPO after a child has been apprehended? And these provisions have been given and again in Rule 8 and 10. It says that immediately after apprehension of a child in conflict with law, the CWPO shall forward the information regarding the nature of offence committed by that child, along with the social background report in Form 1 to the JJ board. What the police is supposed to do, the child has been apprehended. You know the report against the child or complaint against the child given by anybody, or if you have come across any offence committed by that child, then you immediately write the social background report in Form 1, and there are 25 points in Form 1. You have to fill up those points. You have to contact the parents of the child or guardian of the child, and you have to fill up that form. It does not take more than 1 hour, 2 hours, maximum 10 hours or 24 hours to fill up that information. And the first DDR entry which you have written along with that social background report, you have to submit before the JJ board, and the parents or guardian to be informed. And if it is a petty and serious offence, the child should be given in custody of the parents with a undertaking in Form 2 that they will produce the child before the JJ board as and when required. Now, question of registration of inquiry. Whether the police should register a case or not. Rule 1 says that in case of petty and heinous offences, police should not register FIR. Then what should police do? The answer is given in the next paragraph under Rule 8.1. It says that when a child is found to have committed serious and petty offences, police will write a general diary entry and will fill up the social background report form, and that will complete the investigations. Police should submit that information before the JJ board. And it is not the police report. It will not be called police report. It will not be called challan. It will not be called kalandra or complaint. It will be called information. Information under JJ Act, Section 18. That should be the title of that report. And what are we doing? We are submitting report under Section 173 CRPC, which is totally illegal, blatantly wrong. That is an illegal exercise of power, or rather ignorance on part of that police investigating officer. So in serious and petty offences, daily diary entry or general diary entry, or in police parlance, if I say Roznamcha report, and the social background report in Form 1, that completes the investigation on part of police. In petty and serious offences, which are almost 90% of all the cases being committed by police, by juveniles. And this investigation should not take more than 24 hours. And that is how the cases are to be investigated or cases are to be disposed of by the police. In heinous offences, the police may register FIR, may adopt the procedure of investigation as given in the CRPC, and may file their information before the JJ board. Again, it will not be charge sheet under 173. It will be only information to the JJ board. So this is the procedure of registration of inquiry and arrest. Now I come to the time limits for registration for inquiry by police officers. What is the time limit and what is their other responsibilities and duties? When a child is apprehended, the CWPO shall inform the parents and guardian about the apprehension and will also tell them the address of the court or JJ board where the child will be produced and the date of the production as well as the date of further appearance of the child before the court. The police will also inform the probation officer so that the probation officer may complete the social investigation and submit a report before the JJ board. The police will also inform the CWO, the child welfare officer or the caseworker, who will accompany that child from the police station up to the court when the CWPO is taking that child to be produced before the JJ board. So these are the three mandatory duties. Rule 8.4 says the CWPO to be in plain clothes. He will not wear uniform. He shall be in plain clothes. Rule 8.3 further said that handcuffs and fetters shall not be used against the juvenile, or the police will not use any coercion or force against the child. It is prohibited. Yesterday only you might have seen on the TV a very senior politician and chief of the Wrestling Federation of India slapping a youth at this stage. In the old rule 2007, it was specifically mentioned that if a police officer is found guilty of torturing or cruelty to a child, he shall be liable to disciplinary action under major penalty beside being prosecuted under Section 75 of the Act. Unfortunately, this provision is missing in the new rules which are framed in 2016, but in the old rule it was specifically mentioned. Now, Rule 8.3 further said that the child will not be sent to police lockup or to jail. He will not be kept with the adult accused in the police station. The police shall not delay the transfer of that child to child welfare police officer. And if during night the child is to be kept at police station because you cannot produce him before even the single member of the board, you will not keep him in the police station. You will send him to a child care institution following the provisions given in Rule 69. The parents of the child shall be informed about the allegations against the child, and the child will also be made to understand the allegations against him. And if FIR is registered, the copy of the FIR will be given to the parents of the child or to the child. Police shall provide medical assistance and assistance of interpreter and other assistance as per the need of the child. The police will not compel the child to confess his guilt, meaning thereby police will not record his confession. And we are doing it. We are recording his confession. We are even affecting recovery under 27 after his confession, which is not a healthy practice. The police shall not interview the general police or the local police shall not interview the child. It is only the child welfare police officer who will interview the child. And the child welfare police officer will do all the investigation or inquiry for that child. The child-friendly premises should be used for interviewing the child, meaning thereby the child should be interviewed at a place other than the police station. The parent and guardian may remain present during interrogation or during that interview. The child will not be asked to sign any statement, and we are blatantly disregarding it. The information to District Legal Services Authority shall be sent immediately so that the child may avail the facility of free legal aid. The social background report shall be prepared by the police after contacting the parents. The parent should be summoned or parent should be contacted. The police should meet them and all the columns of the social background report should be filled. There are 25 columns in the social background report. In fact, that is the form for investigation. The investigation concludes with the completion of all the entries in the social background report. Unfortunately, I have the opportunity to see most of these social background report. There is nothing in those reports. They fill only few basic information about parents and all that, and did not fill the last 4 or 5 entries which are relevant, which are the basis of their investigation. They are not fulfilling those entries, and a very perfunctory report is being submitted by the police officers. List of the designated CWPOs, CWOs, POs, DLSA, NGOs, principal magistrate, board members, etc. shall be displayed in every police station, which I think some of the police stations are doing it. Some of them are still wanting on this account. Rule 7887 says that where the apprehension of child is not required, meaning thereby the child has committed petty or serious offense and his apprehension is not required, then the child will be released in the custody of the parents or guardian or fit person, and an undertaking will be taken from them in Form 2, which shall be submitted to the JJ board along with the social background report. State government to maintain panel of volunteers and NGOs and persons who can help the police in the exercise of power under JJ Act. State government shall provide funds so that the police, the SJPO, the CWPO or caseworker may cater to the needs of food and basic amenities like travel cost and emergency medical care, etc. for the child. And it is the duty of the district child protection unit to make sure that the funds are provided to all these authorities or all these instrumentalities from the JJ fund. Rule 9.5 says that if the board is not sitting, the child can be produced before a single member, and the single member will pass order qua that child. And in the next meeting, that order shall be ratified by the board, by the full board. If the child is to be detained during night, you cannot produce that child even before a single member. The single member is not available. Then the police cannot keep the child in the police station during night. They should deposit that child with a child care institution by filling Form 42. And the child care institution cannot refuse to entry to a child even at 12 night or 2 o'clock in the night. It is mandatory there for them to take that child, and the child can remain present there up to 2 o'clock next day till the time he is produced before the JJ board. Now, specific duties have been mentioned in section 13 of the Act. It is the duty of the child welfare police officer to inform the parents and guardian, to inform the probation officer as well as the child welfare officers so that they can prepare their report, special investigation report within 2 weeks and submit it to the JJ board. They will also inform the probation officer or the child welfare officer if the child is released on bail. About runaway children and absenting children, I have already discussed this issue in my yesterday's session, but since most of the police officers are present today, let me again tell, when a child is absconding, the child is not appearing before the JJ board after he has been released on bail, the JJ board may ask the child, may ask the SHO or the child welfare police officer to produce that child. And if still that child is not available, then the JJ board can order the police to register inquiries or register case under the provisions of section 26. And in Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India in 2012, the issue was raised by an NGO before the Honorable Supreme Court. And they mentioned that in case of runaway children or missing children, police are only registering the daily diary entry, they are not registering cases. And after registering daily diary entry, police forget. They do not pursue the cases. The Supreme Court then ordered in that case that in every case of missing children or runaway child, police shall register a case. And now SOPs have been issued by the DGP's office about registration of a case in pursuance of the orders of the Honorable Supreme Court in that case. And now FIR is to be registered under section 346 IPC, not against the juvenile, but against unknown person, because it is presumed that the child has been illegally confined by somebody. That is why the child is not coming forward or appearing before the court. So the FIR will be registered against unknown person, and then following that FIR, the police shall take up all the detailed exercise to locate the child. So we have to follow this procedure. Instances have come when police have appeared before the JJ board that you please give us arrest warrant. It is not required. You register a case, and then following the registration of a case, you try to locate that child. And if you locate that child, you simply apprehend that child and produce before the court. No proceeding under section 82 or 83 is to be undertaken. And again, no FIR is to be registered against a juvenile if he has run away from police custody or from the custody of a juvenile home or observation home or special home. I have found in so many cases when a juvenile has run away from a children home or from an observation home, immediately police register an FIR under section 223 and 224 of IPC, which is blatantly illegal. It is prohibited under section 24(4) that no additional proceeding shall be instituted in respect of a child if he has run away. If he has run away from custody, no FIR is to be registered. The only thing is you can register a daily diary entry, and then if the child is not located, you can register an FIR against section 346 IPC against unknown person that somebody has confined that child. And you can pursue your further investigation and further exercise to locate that child. So this is all about runaway children, which generally the police have to follow this procedure. Police inquiry about the time limit. When or during what period police have to submit the police inquiry report before the JJ board. Rule 8.1 and Rule 10.6 are relevant in that regard. Rule 8.1 says the CDPO in petty and serious offences, the CDPO will gather all possible information about the social background of the child, meaning thereby he will complete the form 1 and fill up all the entries. And along with the daily diary entry, the social background report shall be submitted as an information to the JJ board, and it will not be called challan. Please mind it. It will be an information to the JJ board. It will neither be called a challan, neither be called a kalandra, nor be called a complaint. It will be simply an information to the JJ board so that they can take cognizance of that fact. And in that social background report, police shall only discuss the circumstances leading to law violation of the child and the fact of his apprehension. that completes the investigation. And in my opinion, it should not take more than 2-3 days. So challan or this information should be submitted in petty and heinous offences within a week at the max before the JJ board. Whereas the rule provides that this information may be provided to the JJ board not later than 2 months. 2 months time has been given. And the information should be provided in the form of a case diary. It will be called information or a diary or a case diary and not challan under section 173. I am astonished to see that in most of the cases, police is submitting their report to the JJ board under section 173 CRPC, calling it as challan, which is blatantly wrong, blatantly illegal. It should be an information under section 18 of the JJ Act. In petty and serious offences, the time limit prescribed is under Rule 10(6), that is maximum of 2 months. But that 2 months time may be extended by the board. In those cases, only where an adult is also involved with the child, or if the IO does not know that the child, the perpetrator of crime was a child. Because the police may not know whether the offender was a child or not. So it may take time to establish that. In those cases only, the time can be extended. The time of inquiry can be extended by the board. The police have to take permission from the board to continue their inquiry beyond 2 months. Unfortunately, this is not happening and we are not following this procedure and the investigations are being delayed. Now, a question yesterday also arose and some of the officers also inquired about it. What is the procedure to submit report in heinous cases so that the JJ board may start the preliminary assessment? In heinous cases, other than petty and serious cases, there is no time limit prescribed for police to complete the investigation. Police can continue their investigation beyond 2 months, but within 1 month, in heinous offences, police is required to submit the statement of witnesses and other documents to the JJ board so that the JJ board can start the preliminary exercise, the preliminary assessment exercise. Unfortunately, this part is not being followed by the police officer. They are not submitting these statement of witnesses and document within 1 month before the JJ board in heinous offences so that the JJ board can start preliminary assessment in time. And the police officer have to take note of it. Claim of juvenility, yesterday some resource person have already dealt with it. I will not go into the detail, but I will only mention here that police officers are ignorant about the procedure of establishing juvenility. They have to follow the procedure given in section 9 and section 94, along with the rules in the JJ rules. But for the benefit of those police officers who are joining today, let me, at the cost of repetition, say that the school certificate is the Khuda ka farman so far as the age of the juvenile is concerned. If a school certificate is available and that is genuine certificate, you need not to go for further inquiry about establishing the date of birth. If that is available, that is not available, then you can go for the certificate by the panchayat or the certificate on the basis of the birth register kept in the municipal corporation. And if that is available, that will be considered as the conclusive proof. But if both these documents are not available, only then medical examination is allowed. What is happening? The police officer at the drop of the hat are going for medical examination. That is wrong. First, you should try to find out the school leaving certificate. That will be the age. If that is not available, you should try to find out the birth certificate from the panchayat or from the corporation. That will be the final proof. Only if both these documents are not available, medical examination is allowed. So this is what I wanted to tell to the police officers about claim of juvenility. I will not go into the further detail because some other resource person have already dealt with it. Let me now come to the question of the date of birth when there are different date of birth in different documents. And the Supreme Court have dealt this issue in Parag Bhati versus State of UP. The Supreme Court has held that when there are two different date of birth in different documents and this one of that document certainly will be a fabricated or fake document. In that case, the Supreme Court have allowed that the medical examination should be resorted to. Otherwise, medical examination is prohibited. Medical examination can be resorted to only if the document is fake or document is suspicious or the document appears to be not genuine. I will not discuss the issue of bail. I will only mention that anticipatory bail under the Juvenile Justice Act is not permitted, is not maintainable. Even the Punjab and Haryana High Court, Honorable Judge has referred the matter to the Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court to constitute a larger bench to decide the question of the provisions of anticipatory bail to a juvenile. I tried to find out, I could locate about a dozen of orders from other high courts, and I found that almost all the high courts were of the opinion that anticipatory bail under provisions of section 438 CRPC is not maintainable qua a juvenile. But the court have suggested that instead a writ petition should be filed under Article 21. And under that writ jurisdiction, the Honorable High Court can give relief to that juvenile. But anticipatory bail under section 438 is not maintainable. I will not discuss more than that about the bail provisions because it has already been discussed by Honorable Judge of the High Court yesterday. I will discuss here section 23, where it is prohibited that there will not be joint proceedings of a juvenile with an adult. And in order to ensure that, it is mandatory for the police that if an adult is involved with a juvenile in commission of that crime, then the challan or report under 173 against the adult will be submitted by the police in the Ilaka Magistrate Court, and the separate information about the juvenile will be submitted by the police before the JJ board. And recently, the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court have issued directions to all the courts to pay attention to the provisions of section 23 and not to conduct joint trial of adult with the juvenile. Another miscellaneous provision which require mention from the point of view of police officer is that no preventive action against juvenile should be taken. A juvenile should not be arrested under section 107151. No preventive action can be taken against a juvenile. And of course, no disqualification. If a juvenile is found have committed some offense, and destruction of record, police is required to destroy the record as per the provisions I have discussed yesterday. The another issue which I was given to discuss in this session was the social background report. The social background report is the performa is given in Form 1, and as I have told you, there are 25 points in it. And in order to fulfill that performa, to fill that performa, the CWPO is required to meet the parents or guardian of the child, and he should gather all possible information and should fill up those 25 points. And those 25 points include family details, education status, habits, vocational training, peer group or company, child abuse if any, victim of crime if the child is there, if the child is victim of any crime or has been a victim of crime, reason behind crime committed, circumstances of apprehension, alleged role of that child in that crime, article recovered. All these issues are part of the social background report. And this is why it is called that this is the investigation report of police, which is to be submitted. And at the end, the last point is suggestion of the child welfare police officer about the involvement of that child in that crime, what he has to say, what the police officer suggests to the board. This is all about social background report. But unfortunately, police is not filling up all these points and is preparing a very perfunctory social background report, which is of no use. Another issue which I was supposed to deal with it is production of the CCL before the JJB. When the police have completed their inquiry and they are going to produce that child before the JJ board, what are the precautions which the police have to take? And Rule 9 discuss that. It says that police should produce that child within 24 hours, along with the report explaining reason for his apprehension. And these reasons are given in the social background report. When the child is produced before the JJ board may pass order on bail. If the JJ board is of the opinion that bail should be denied, as per provisions of section 12, the child may be sent to the observation home or to the place of safety, as the case may be. If the child is found to be abused by militants or by criminals, then the JJ board shall refer the child even to the Child Welfare Committee, so that the Child Welfare Committee can make appropriate order for care and protection of that child. Where the child is not apprehended, meaning thereby the police does not feel that the child should be apprehended, it is petty and serious offense, then the police shall release him in the custody of that parent. In that case, the JJ board shall require the CCL to appear before it. Will ask the police to produce that child before it, so that if any rehabilitation measure is required, the JJ board may order that. Unfortunately, we are ignoring this provision. Once the police have released the child in custody of the parents, then the JJ board are only calling the child on the date of hearing. Whereas Rule 9(4) requires that in between also the JJ board shall require to call the juvenile, so that if any order for rehabilitation of that child is to be passed, the JJ board may pass that order. Another point which I was to discuss in this session was offences against children. I will mention only the offences which are there, but one thing which generally is being ignored is the procedure to try these offences against children. Who will take cognizance of these offences against children? Whether those offences will be bailable or non-bailable. Which court will try that? Normally, in case of adults, Schedule 1 gives that detail. But in case of juvenile victims, when some adult have committed a crime against a juvenile, or a juvenile have committed a crime against a juvenile, then Section 186 provide details about classification of those offences, cognizability or non-cognizability of those offences, bailability or non-bailability of those offences, and the court which will try those offences. So instead of looking CRPC Schedule 1, we should see Section 86 to find out whether those offences against children which are given under the JJ Act are to be tried by which court, are bailable or non-bailable, are cognizable or non-cognizable. And here I have projected it. I will only just like to mention that the CRPC shall not be applicable again in these types of offences which are committed against the juvenile. Let me now give the titles of the offences against children. Section 74, disclosure of identity of a child. It is a criminal offence punishable up to 6 months. But if the identity of the child is to be disclosed, then permission of JJ board or CWC is required. And police will not even disclose the record of the child for the purpose of character verification. Normally, when police recruitment is there, you will find almost 10% of the rural youth who were involved as a juvenile in criminal cases being barred from joining police. And because the police have mentioned in the character verification that the case was registered against him, it is barred. It is a offense under section 74. Cruelty to child. Whoever is having charge or control over a child, if he is found to have committed cruelty to a child, then it is an offense and it is punishable up to 3 years of imprisonment. But the parents, biological parents, cannot be booked under this section if the abandonment is beyond their control. They have abandoned the child due to poverty or because of any other reason. Employment of a child for begging. You see on every nook and corner in Chandigarh, you will find children begging or selling some toys or pens or whatever. It is an offense. Employment of child for begging under section 76(1) and imprisonment up to 5 years is the prescribed punishment. Employment of child for begging abatement. There are certain gangs who are doing it. Even there are certain parents who are motivating their children to beg. The offense is punishable under section 76(2) up to 5 years of imprisonment. And such a child shall be removed from the charge or control of such guardian or parents and shall be produced before the Child Welfare Committee for appropriate orders. Penalty for giving intoxicant or NDPS Act, including tobacco products, in an offense under section 77, and it is punishable up to 7 years of imprisonment. Using child as carrier of liquor and NDPS, again punishable up to 7 years. I saw a case in which a juvenile was riding a motorcycle and the pillion rider was his elder brother who was carrying some NDPS. The police booked both of them under NDPS Act. In my opinion, it was misuse of the law against the juvenile, because under section 78, only the elder brother who was carrying that NDPS and was using that child as a carrier should have been booked. The child should have been given the benefit of benevolence of the JJ Act. Exploitation of child labor, section 79. And in this section, child labor includes employment of a child for selling goods, for selling gubbaras, pans or whatever, or eatables on the roads, or using the child for entertainment in public places. बच्चे खेल दिखाते रहते हैं public places में. That is prohibited under section 79 and it amounts to child labor and punishment is up to 5 years of imprisonment. Adoption without prescribed norms. JJ Act provides adoption norms. So if somebody is adopting a child or somebody is giving a child in adoption without following the norms in the JJ Act, it is punishable under section 80 and punishment is up to 3 years. Sale and purchase of child, punishment is up to 5 years. Corporal punishment in child care institution. Sometimes these child care institutions indulge in corporal punishment to discipline the child, and it has been given a minor status. The punishment is to the employee who is giving corporal punishment up to 10,000 rupees fine. And if it is a second offense, then 3 months of imprisonment, and he shall be dismissed from the institution. recruitment of a child by militants, or using of a child for illegal activities by anybody else. It is an offense punishable up to 7 years of imprisonment. Committed on disabled child, the punishment is double the punishment for a normal child. Punishment is the same as for the principal offense. Alternative punishment. Any offense punishable under this act, if it is also punishable under any other law, then the offender shall be punished with the punishment which is greater in degree. This is the concept of alternative punishment. And if the offender under this act is a child, under these provisions is a child, then he will be treated as a CCL under the act. I sum up this lecture here by saying that inquiry under JJ Act is not merely quest finding truth, but search for reasons behind the crime. And the purpose is not merely collection of evidence for securing conviction, but gathering information for rehabilitation. This is how I sum up this lecture. I was also asked to discuss or detail what are the hurdles which police is facing in implementation of the JJ Act. And I discussed these issues with my co-presenter, Shri Alok Mittalji, and he has asked me to present these 6 main hurdles which the police is facing in implementation of the JJ Act. And they are non-constitution of SJPUs and appointment of CWPUs and their training, incompetent IOs and their frequent transfers and being assigned other duties. Third, appointment of inadequate number of probation officers and child welfare officers with the JJP and CWCs. Juvenile Justice Fund funds are not being released to the police for care and protection of children. Services of translator, interpreter, psychiatrist, case workers, etc. are not of desired level and standards. And mainly, duty roster for members of JJ board or CWC is not in place to ensure round-the-clock presence of any member for protection of the child before them. These were some of the hurdles which were being faced by police officer. Now, I was also asked to discuss the difficulties faced by the JJ board members, and these difficulties were forwarded to me by the academy. I will also like to mention them here. They are: the social background report is not being furnished on time, and it is perfunctory. It is stereotyped and prepared in casual manner, and this charge is established. Paper for initiating preliminary assessment in heinous cases are not filed in stipulated time, resulting in delay. Police officer should take note of it. FIRs are being registered in violation of Rule 8. Police officers should understand it. Other work is assigned to the CWPUs. The supervisory officers or CWPUs should take note of it. The CWPUs are transferred frequently from their duties. It should not happen. Police is not sensitized. Yes, they need training and sensitization. Age proof is not being produced by police at the first production of the juvenile. Yes, it is true. Police should do it. Facilities like institutions for community service, fit institutions, fit person, institutions for education, etc. are not available all the times. It is a fact, and the state instrumentalities have to ensure it. There's lack of coordination between DCPU and police. This charge is somewhat valid. There is no child-friendly corner in the police station, and police senior officers should take note of it. They should create a corner in police station where the CCL may be treated by the CWPOs, and non-availability of sincere NGOs and caseworker. This is also a valid charge which the appropriate authorities have to take notice of. I was also forwarded some of the questions by the academy. I'll discuss them in short. The first question which was forwarded was that in case of inquiry terminated with passage of time, whether ICP is required to be prepared or not. Meaning thereby, if the proceedings have been terminated because the proceedings could not be completed within the stipulated time, then whether the individual care plan is still required to be prepared or not. The answer is yes. And why? Because JJ board is in the role of foster parent of the child. And the purpose of the dispositional order or the exercise by the children or by the JJ board is rehabilitation of the child. And rehabilitation need will not vanish with the termination of proceedings. In the dispositional order, when the proceedings are being terminated, the JJ board may issue directions for the parents and guardian as per the ICP. Second question was, what is the method of preparing ICP? The answer is that the DCPU or the probation officer of caseworker, whoever is going to prepare that ICP, should take help of expert, should interact with the child and parents, and should try to fulfill information in all columns of 4.7. This is the method. The third question was whether when inquiry is culminated when the juvenile is 21 years of age. In that case, whether ICP is required or not. And the answer is ICP is required. And to understand that answer, we have to understand what is the purpose of ICP. The purpose of ICP is twofold. First, to assess the requirement of special need of the child in CCI. Second, to understand the reasons behind his involvement in the crime in order to award a logical and appropriate punishment. No doubt if the child have crossed the age of 21 years, the first purpose is forfeited because the child has already crossed the age of 21 years. But the second purpose still remains. The ICP will guide the JJ board or the children court to arrive at an appropriate and logical dispositional order. Maybe after reading the ICP, the court decide that the child does not need incarceration in jail and deserve the concession of probation or deserve order other than the custodial punishment. So ICP is required because that is a useful help for the presiding officer to decide upon the dispositional order. Fourth, if conviction is made in petty offense, whether IPC is to be made, the answer is yes. The purpose of ICP is rehabilitation and reintegration of the CCL. Direction may be issued to parents or guardian or CWC in such cases. ICP. And last question, whether ICP is prepared, when child is in institution, whether fresh ICP may be required at the time of dispositional order or not. The answer is yes. The process of preparing ICP starts the day when CCL is apprehended. And then thereafter, there are part A, B, C, and D of ICP. And it is a continuous process. And it continues even after release of the child. Therefore, if need be, if the presiding officer feels it appropriate, he may call for fresh ICP at the time of passing the dispositional order. I stop here. If still there